I just want to welcome everyone, a very big welcome to our first Coffee with the Counselors Junior Planning Edition session. We're very excited to have you here. We were thinking about different ways that we could have information shared with parents and guardians, and we know that we have a lot of night programs and things like that, but we also know that there are some people who cannot do the night things and maybe could need some morning information. So we're very excited to have you. We hope you are enjoying our coffee and the light snacks that we have for you. But we have some information for you today that we think is really important to share with you. There are going to be a few of us up here presenting. I'm starting off. My name is Lori Foote-Mitchell. I'm the school counseling director for grades 6 through 12, so I'm at the middle school and the high school. And we are very excited for you on your endeavor for juniors planning for the future. So we wanted to share some information with you. The agenda, just so that you know, in your folders, you should have on the left side of your folder, you should have a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation, so you can actually write notes on that and bring that with you, that kind of thing. And on the right-hand side, you will have a How Can Parents and Guardians Help? This is some really important information for you to sort of, get an idea of maybe what you should be doing to help your child. There's the blue copy is a copy of, we have junior planning workshops that are helping students in maybe creating a resume, learning more about NCAA and how to register. Naviance, our college program, our post-secondary program, registering for the SATs, and some general junior planning information. We highly recommend that your students sign up for one of those or all of those workshops at some point or another. The green form is just a copy of SAT and ACT dates. And there's another bluish-green copy of what was given to students at their junior planning meetings with the counselors. So just some great information for you to have. So basically we're going to give you a little bit of information about our department, graduation requirements, junior planning, standardized testing, post-secondary options, Naviance, the college application packages and key terms, college essay, NCAA, financial aid scholarships. What can I do to help my junior over the next year? And we have a wonderful guest speaker who has been through this quite a few times and can give you some of her experiences. Mrs. Christina Santos is here, who will speak at the end, and then we'll have a question and answer section at the very end. Our school counseling department is comprised of myself. We have 6 school counselors. Ms. Sousa, who was out there checking people in, last name's A3CK, Mr. T, Mr. Taylor, Matt Taylor, Ross Burba, who is sitting down there, and he will be speaking as well. Carol Leacock, who is out front checking people in, Christina Wallace in the front, Nicole Fernald right here, and Ashley Ruthier, who you may have seen running around. She's our school counseling intern, so she's our extra little arm, our 7th arm, basically, in the school counseling department. PowerPoint presentation, just for you guys to know, you have a copy of it, but we'll also put it on our website. Miss Wallace.
Hi everyone, good morning. So I am going to talk a little bit about graduation requirements and the overall timeline for the next year and a half, frankly, of everyone's lives. So to start off, rather than going through the graduation requirements line by line, I am 100% confident that your children are talking with their counselors on a regular basis about their credits, their grades, what they need to graduate, and then what goes beyond that graduation requirement. As you'll see at the top, these are the requirements for the current seniors and current juniors. Our graduation requirements do change for the class of 2017 and beyond. So if any of you have younger children coming up, you'll see some different numbers, but they're all available in program studies on the website or in consulting with your school counselor. Overall, that grand total, 23 credits. Many students will end up with credits beyond that 23. Aside from credits, there are performance standards in math, reading, writing, and science. Right now, that is being met through either the CAPT test, which your children took in 10th grade, possibly 11th grade. And there's a new standardized test that is out to the state of Connecticut called the Smarter Balance. I'm sure that you're receiving communication at home. I believe a letter came home explaining the Smarter Balance. There are alternate ways to meet that graduation requirement that would be in discussion with your child's school counselor on how that works. Sure. Can we maybe do the questions at the end? Is that okay? We'll just kind of come back. And if we don't have an answer today, then that's something that we can take a note of and consult with our administrators and get an answer, okay? Thank you. So beyond those requirements, there are the standard Windsor High School diploma requirements. Many four-year colleges are looking for some extra pieces to the transcript. Typically, colleges are looking for 3 years of a world language in high school. They don't recognize the 8th grade year, so many of your children may have taken Spanish 1 or French 1 over at Sage Park, allowing them to get further in the world language curriculum up here. So that's just a little thing to note. Typically 4 years of a math, regardless of if they're going into a field that has to do with math, because typically most students do need to take a freshman year of math in college, and it is very difficult to take a full year off of math and jump back into that type of thinking, that type of learning. At least 2 years of a lab science. Many of your students are taking those classes anyway, built into their science track here at Windsor High School. And then any additional specific requirements can be found on the college's admission page. College websites are very interactive, very user-friendly. They will typically lay out exactly what they're looking for that they require, but then those extra pieces that might add to the student's application. While the current juniors don't need to do community service hours as part of graduation, it is something that essentially every adult in their life is probably encouraging them to do, not only for your character building and getting involved in the community, but when it comes to applying for scholarships on the application, it's going to be that extra piece that goes beyond your child's grades, that goes beyond their GPA or class rank. It shows that they get involved, that they will be an active member of that campus. And not watch Netflix and take naps in their dorm room, like some of us may have done. Just kidding. All right, so just kind of a general timeline for junior planning this spring. All 11th graders started meeting with their school counselors the week of March 11th to go over their course requests for next year. We combined the course request meeting with a mini junior planning meeting. Now we changed the format a little bit because, as you will find over the next year and a half, there's a lot of information to share. We love to share information. Sometimes we get really passionate and want to talk for hours about that information. But does that produce the best results for the students? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So we wanted to change the format and make our junior planning process a situation where students gather information and then actually immerse themselves in that learning, similar to what they're doing in their classrooms, and leave with a final product. So leave with a resume, leave with their SAT registration done, leave with ideas on their college essay, possibly. So that was the reason for our format change. We're going to collect data, we're going to talk with the students, stakeholders, and find out if that format change was the most effective and helpful way. So, mini junior planning meetings with course selection. Junior workshops started this past Monday. If I were to give a rough estimate, I'd say we probably have seen close to 30 juniors, possibly even 40 at this point, through either SAT registration, NCAA registration, resumes, and general planning and letters of recommendation. So we've seen a good chunk of the junior class at this point. They will run Mondays and Tuesdays. They started this week, and they run for the entire month of April. And as Mrs. Foot-Mitchell said, you have the schedule in your folders, something to throw in the fridge and give gentle, voluntold reminders over the next few weeks. They sign up in our Career Resource Center, and we'll send them a pass. If they are missing an academic class, we obviously encourage them to first sign up for study hall blocks, but then clear it with their teacher and make that work up, because we don't want to inhibit their progress. The topics for the workshops are up there, and we're also available to have individual meetings with students and families this spring if you wanted more individual conversation after the fact. All right, so individual planning meetings kicked off our process. This spring, we are highly encouraging all juniors to take the SAT or ACT at least once. Colleges use those standardized tests interchangeably. They will accept either the SAT or the ACT. If we lived anywhere else in the United States outside of the Northeast, the entire school would be taking the ACT. College Board has a monopoly on the Northeast. They're both used equally. They're both great measures of assessment, and we encourage students to take one or both this spring. Start thinking about letters of recommendation. So there are approximately 270 11th graders in the class of 2016. Out of those 270 11th graders, each of them will probably request between 2 and 3 letters of recommendation. I wasn't a math major. Ballpark 700 letters of recommendation that will be requested in the next few months. I highly encourage juniors to be the top of that list and not the bottom of that list. Because application deadlines come up early, teachers have those letters of recommendation to write, lesson planning to do, grading to do, staying after school, etc. So it's more about making sure that your child is at the top of that list, is able to give the teacher and the counselor the information they need to get the letter that they deserve. Asking teachers, we say the beginning of senior year, I honestly recommend before the end of 11th grade, at least having that first in-person conversation, following up with the paperwork and the writing, in writing to confirm like the deadlines, the date, things like that. Open houses are held very frequently in the spring at different colleges. Colleges track the interest that a student shows in the school. So every open house you attend, tour you attend, email you send an admissions counselor, that college is keeping track of it. Higher ed is a business, and they're marketing and they're trying to figure out how to bring students to their campus. Local college fairs. There was recently the Hartford National College Fair at the Convention Center a few weeks ago. The same National College Fair is happening in Springfield, coming up, I believe it's next weekend. Admissions criteria, tuition estimates, just starting to do the general research about your schools and the list that the student is developing. Get organized, create a file, keep all that together. I'm being told I need to hurry up. I could talk for hours about this. Summer before senior year, the highlight of the slide that I would say is getting involved, whether it's a job, an internship, community service, something that shows that the student is going beyond the classroom and getting involved, like I said before. Take note of deadlines. The earlier that they can apply, the better. Early action deadlines happen between mid-September to maybe mid-November. The early action application allows the student to be compared against a smaller pool of applicants. When you're compared against a smaller pool, typically your chances increase. So the earlier, the better. Visit some campuses, bring the campus to life. The website is wonderful, but actually having the in-person experience will help narrow down the decision as well. Making sure that the child has a balanced list of safe, target, and reach schools. Safe, feeling very confident about your chances based on their GPA, SAT range. Target, you're right in their average range. Reach, their scores might be a little bit above yours, but you bring other things to the table that give you an active, viable chance of getting into that school. The more you do before senior year, the better, because as we know, life continues to happen outside of the college planning process, post-secondary planning process. Fall of senior year, biggest highlight here because there's a lot of information on this slide, but every child will have an individual senior meeting with their counselor in the fall. That will kick off the application process. We try not to get too much into the applications now because that's a whole separate entity. Right now it's more about the planning, having the list of schools, doing the necessary pieces to get ready to apply in the fall. And that wraps up my session.
Good morning, everybody. I am going to talk a little bit about testing. We feel that your juniors should be tested some more this year. So let me start off with the PSAT tests. Most of you are well aware that your students have taken the PSATs sophomore year and beginning of junior year. Basically, the PSAT score report, hopefully you have the opportunity to look at it. We gave it to students during advisories classes. And to get a general idea of what a student may score on the SATs, basically for college search planning purposes, you can add a 0 to the score. So if they have gotten a 40 on it, basically add a 0 to it, and that could be a 400. So when you are using Naviance, I'm putting in a plug for Naviance, and you're looking up the admissions criteria for schools, that will give you a general idea of where they stand, in addition to their GPA, of course. One important and often overlooked item of the PSAT is its usefulness in studying for the SAT. Students can take their own PSAT exam and go online and go to Quick Start, which is part of the College Board website, and access their own test. This is very specifically designed to help the students study for the SATs. We're often asked how students can study, and as I said, this is a greatly overlooked tool for students. I went to a conference a few years ago, a College Board conference, and they talked about this. Nationally, they estimated about 2 to 3% of students utilized this tool, and which that's a shame. You know, if they can go in, and if they're getting assistance when working through their problems that they have difficulty on, by all means, they should be using it. Keep in mind that students can, if they create an account on the College Board, they can, they'll be able to access their scores. But be careful in that they are remembering their user information, the username and password. They do not want to create 2 accounts down the road. That can cause problems for them, just in terms of score reports. Now, SAT. Students, juniors should be plan on taking the SAT this spring. It's offered here at the high school, May 2nd. The deadline for registering is April 6th. There is a late fee after that. They will have an opportunity to register after that, and the College Board will be more than willing to take the extra money from you for registering. But however, be mindful of the deadlines. Make sure that they print out their admission ticket and bring a student ID to the test. That's required. One neat thing, I'm going to mention Naviance again. When a student is doing a search on Naviance, it will actually give a little bit of an analysis on there of the student's scores compared to that particular school's scores that they're looking for. And so that becomes very clear, what their chances are, and the appropriate admissions, what the appropriate admissions criteria are for that student. There are study books available in bookstores, in the library. College Board has study guides. They have sample tests on their website that students can utilize. Also, on Naviance, there is the prepping program. Students can utilize that. One thing about the scores for the SATs I would like to mention. Several years ago, the writing section of the SAT was added to the exam. And colleges honestly never really got on board with utilizing that score. So sometimes there's some confusion. If we go into an advisory and we're doing a program on college admissions requirements, and we are mentioning that UConn is looking for approximately 1250 on SATs. A lot of times you run into students and sometimes parents thinking that, well, they're all set, but they've added up all 3 of the scores. So you just want to be careful of that when you're looking at the requirements. Generally, you're adding up the critical reading and the math score when you're comparing to college requirements. Some colleges will mention their requirements in all 3, but you just have to be careful of what you're looking at. If a student receives free or reduced lunch, they can get a fee waiver from us. We do have several of them. So, you know, make sure that your students mention that to the school counselors. The ACT is another exam that is a possibility for students to take. Basically, it's just another competing company. I describe it as an achievement test. Students basically are measured what they have learned, whereas I may consider the SAT a reasoning test, measures their ability to figure things out. The ACT does have a science component to it, so if a student is rather good in science, it could benefit them. I've been told that if a student has struggled on the SATs over the years, I've been told this over the years, if they struggle on the SAT, maybe they will do better on the ACT. Honestly, I haven't noticed this to a great extent, but you know, if a student does have a good science background, it could benefit them somewhat. As ACT can be used as a subject test for some colleges. More competitive colleges, selective schools will require students to do subject tests, and the ACT may be used for that because of the way it's set up. You will, however, want to make sure that you check with the colleges before you go ahead and take the ACT for that purpose. More tests. As I just mentioned, the SAT, the subject tests, are required by selective schools, but you know, you want to make sure the school's requiring them before the student, before your child is registering for the subject test. AP exams will be coming up soon. These are taken by students who are enrolled in advanced placement courses. Basically, some colleges will accept a certain score on the AP exam and award the student credit. And that's really just depending on the college. And you want to basically be able to look that up and find out if they can get the credit. The ASVAB, that is the military exam, was just given here a few days ago. That's a really great test for students to take. They could take it next year if they haven't done it this year. Basically, it's an aptitude test, and there's no affiliation with having to go into the military if they take it. Some students like to take it to find out where their strengths and weaknesses are, to give them some direction in choosing a career choice. But it is used by the military in placement in terms of different opportunities in the military. Okay, let me turn it over to Nicole Fernald.
Hi, I'm Nicole Arnold. So today's presentation is focused on college. Over 85% of our students go on to college. There are some other options that students have available to them as well. So we talk about 4-year, we talk about 2-year schools. There's certificate programs that are at the community colleges and other private technical schools. Military, like Mr. Berger was just mentioning about the ASVAB test, and then also work. So, an option that has become more popular for families is for students to go to 2-year schools to start, take some of the core classes that are required, save a lot of money because the 2-year schools are a lot more affordable than a 4-year school, and then transfer onto a 4-year school to finish their bachelor's degree. That option has become a lot more popular as the college costs have increased. So when we talk to students who are planning to go on to work, we talk with them about letters of reference, we talk with them about their resume and how they can get ready for interviews. And with the military, we have access to all the branches of the military, and they come here and will meet with any student or family that's interested. So the most important factor in choosing a post-secondary choice for you and your student is fit. So financial fit and academic fit, whatever is right for your student and your family. Okay, so some important things to consider when the student is thinking about what's right for them. So they want to really think about themselves, what's important to them, what their values are, and then what are their reasons for going to school. So if it's because everyone else is doing it, that might not be the best reason. So you really want to talk with your student about what their goals are, what their career plan is, as I'm sure that you already have been doing that. So we tell students that they can afford to go to college, even though it is very expensive and the costs are increasing. There's financial aid that is available. It's very common for students to take out student loans, and as long as they're selecting a career area that has job opportunities after, then they're investing in themselves and their future, and they're going to be able to pay those loans off. There's merit and need-based financial aid available. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Naviance as well, which was mentioned earlier. So when you came in, you got a Naviance registration code if you don't have an account for Naviance yet. Naviance is a web-based program that we use in our district, grades 6 through 12, and it's a comprehensive online program that allows students to do career research, and then once they come to the high school level, they're doing a lot of college research on there as well. So we use it to track every college application that comes into and goes out of our office. So parents can see that information, students can see that information, and counselors can see that information. You can have your own account, your student has their own account. It provides scholarship information, we list a lot of scholarships on there. They can make a resume, there's SAT prep, which was mentioned earlier. And so you can see that the website is up here, and there's a link available to our Windsor High School website right on the front page on the right, so that you can easily access it. There's going to be a video on our website available to you as well about how to log into Naviance and how to use that and use some of the tools.
It's on there.
It's on there now? Okay. So what does Naviance have to offer? So college research, like I said, there's college search tools on there. Scattergrams and acceptance history is one thing I want to point out. We gather acceptance letters and denial letters or waitlist letters from students. They share that information with us, the seniors, once your student becomes a senior, and we input that information into Naviance. And part of the reason why we do that is so that students can see where they match up to other students who've applied from our school. So it will show those students anonymous, it's all anonymous, their GPA and their SAT information, and then your student can sort of see, oh, where do I fit in with that? You can also create lists on there of the colleges. So far, your student has completed most likely a college search and listed colleges I'm thinking about. They can add schools to that list, their counselor can add schools to that list, so you can see, what schools they're thinking about. Scholarships, like I mentioned, we have listed on there, and then SAT prep.
All right, so in comes October. We're back at school. We're starting to look at what to expect as far as the college application actually is concerned with. The first thing is just the basic application. Well, I'm sure everybody remembers their application back in the day. That hasn't changed too much, but the form has changed. So now everything's online. The application's online, application fees being paid through credit card online. The transcript request is still going to be done in paper to us, and then we will be sending the transcript online to that school. Standardized test scores are sent by your child through the test agency, which means they're going to go back onto College Board, they're going to remember their username and their password, they're going to log in, and then they're going to send their scores on off to all the colleges that they'd like to send them to. Or they'll send them through at the ACT if they took that test. The college essay is, in general, going to be sent online also. There are a few situations where that essay is sent paper and pen, but for the most part, it's attached to the common application or to that school's specific specific application. Letters of recommendation are right in hand with the transcript. Your child is going to request them from the teacher. The teacher then uploads them onto Naviance, and then we send those recommendations off to the school. So no longer are those days where you bring in 15 envelopes and you have your kids go in and hand them the sealed envelope, then they come down to us, we put them in a bigger envelope, and we send them on off to the schools. Now everything is done online, and everything gets sent out without a paper trail. There's also the resume. We would like all of the seniors, when they come in at the beginning, when they have that first meeting with us, to have a resume. That resume goes right on top of all their information. We send everything off to college. This is a way that the colleges can put everything together. They can and get a quick snapshot of your son or daughter. Also, there's some optional material. So some schools are going to require supplements, extra writing samples. If your child is interested in music, they may require an audition. If they're interested in the arts or going into fashion, they may want a portfolio of some sort to be sent also. Absolutely. When you're taking the SAT, you have an option of selecting to send scores to 4 schools for free. Take advantage of this opportunity, because right now it's up over $11 per school to send those scores to. So when I look at my list of students and I see that a student has applied to 28 schools, in my head I'm doing the math and it doesn't add up so well for me. So take advantage of those 4 free scores for sure, and then from there, decide, and this is why we narrow down that list so that we can have a better idea of what schools to actually send the scores to. And the vast majority of schools are now moving to the common application. If your son or daughter is applying to a school, to one or more schools that want the common application, absolutely fill out the common application. It's filling out one application that can go to more than one school. It's saving them time and effort. Some students will want to fill out applications to each and every individual school. It takes a lot of time to do this. They're going to be regurgitating the same exact information over and over again to all these schools. If they can take advantage of the common application, they absolutely should. If the school doesn't accept the common application, generally speaking, on the website, you click on admissions, and there's a spot where it says apply now, apply online. Very few schools are still doing the paper and pen application. There are a few that are still out there, but very few are doing it, so most of the time they're all online. And even if schools do accept the pen and paper, like MCC accepts the pen and paper, they still tell us if you can do it online, it's easier for them too. A few key terms that we should go over, Ms. Wallace mentioned them briefly. Early action. Early action is the one that we recommend. Students apply early, they find out early. There's more money in the banks of the schools at this time, so there's a little bit more financial incentive also. This is a non-binding thing. You can apply to as many schools as you want, early action, and it's non-binding, so you don't have to go there. We definitely recommend that you do early action if at all possible. Early decision is one that we don't recommend unless you are absolutely certain of the school that you want to go to, and you are absolutely sure that you are able to go to this school, meaning financially, travel, anything like that. Because what you're saying to the school is, I am going to your school if you accept me, no matter what, no matter how $0 you give me, I'm still willing to go to your school. Again, that one's binding. You can only do that to one school. Rolling admissions is your regular admissions. You apply, and it's an ongoing application process for the schools. They're constantly reviewing, and then they're letting people in. You usually hear back 4 to 6 weeks on that one. Always be checking on the deadlines of the schools. You can check them out on Naviance. You can check them out on the school websites. And if you have any questions, we're always available also to check with. Letters of recommendation. We are running workshops right now. We just did this with, we had 2 sessions. We had about 14 students do this one the other day. Letters of recommendation. Most schools are going to want to see 3 letters of recommendation. 1 from the school counselor, especially if it's common application. Your student must ask the school counselor. And also, usually 2 teachers. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 3. Sometimes schools will say maximum of 10. But realistically, it's 2 teachers. and the counselor. We talk to the students. We say, if we're talking about teachers, it doesn't have to be the teacher that you got straight A's in all the way through. Maybe it's someone that you had twice. You had sophomore year and you have them junior year also. There's someone who you built a relationship with, who maybe we started off as maybe getting a B or an A minus, or we struggled with something, we stayed after school, we worked with that teacher, we built some sort of relationship with that person so that they can write a recommendation for us that's really candid and about us. The transcript is a record of all the final grades. No one will ever see what your son or daughter did during the first quarter of sophomore year in English 10, but they will see what the final grade is of every class that your son or daughter completes. The transcript also covers the GPA, the QPA, class rank, that information is all on there. The SATs are no longer on the transcript, which is why each son or daughter has to send them themselves through the College Board or through the ACTs. And all your students have received a copy of their transcript in that course selection junior planning meeting that we've already had. If they'd like a copy of their official transcript, they can obviously come down and have a chat with us, no problem. The college essay questions just came out from the Common App 2 days ago, yesterday. So all the prompts are there. The college essay is really an opportunity for your son or daughter to explain who they are. The colleges want to see that they can write, absolutely. That's extremely important, which is why having a counselor look at it, having an English teacher look at it is super important. But it's also an opportunity to show them a little bit of some personal information, share themselves with that person. Does the college essay get you into college? Probably not. But does the college essay, if you're teetering on the edge of, is the student going to get in, is the student not going to get in? If you can make that committee feel something for you, if they can understand you, if you can show them a bit of you, it can push you over the edge. It can be that little bit of a difference maker. And it's really the opportunity that your son or daughter has to show them themselves. Quick word about athletics. If your child is looking to play sports in college, at the D1 or D2 level, they must clear the clearinghouse, the NCAA clearinghouse. The website's right there. We recommend they do this during the junior year. This way coaches and everything can be in contact with them over time. They should be talking to their current coaches about possibilities. A lot of the coaches in the area have connections with schools in Connecticut or New England area. They should take advantage of their coaches and the connections that they have. Also building an athletic resume, stuff like that. They should definitely come down and talk to us about how to set one of those up. I have a lot of slides. The FAFSA is the financial aid application. We host College Bowl Sunday at the end of January. Sunday before the Super Bowl. There's no football games that day. That's why I'm willing to be here. If you guys can come down, that's awesome. The FAFSA has become much easier than it has been in the past. It's no longer the paper going through the stuff. When you're online, there's little question marks next to every possibility, and it'll break it down for you and explain, well, don't do this, add this, and it makes life a lot easier for you. But on that day in January, we have financial aid experts coming down here, and they will go over things for you. If you have any questions, if you have any funny situations, you bring your tax information down, and they'll take care of it right there with you. You walk out with the finished products. It's pretty great. Some schools require the CSS profile. This is a different financial aid worksheet that you have to fill out. This one's a little bit longer. It's definitely longer. It's definitely more in depth. They're asking like your model car and make and color and how many miles you drove last week, stuff like that. But again, like that's another thing that you may have to fill out. Just double check with the school. Some schools require that also. Scholarship information. We're going back to Naviance again. There's a scholarship list on Naviance where you can match, so your credentials, your students' credentials, they'll match with certain scholarships that are out there. There's also the local scholarships are now on Naviance as well. You have an opportunity to go on there. They tell you how much the scholarship is worth. They tell you how to apply for the scholarship, and then you can add it to your list and apply. Other than Naviance, there are some other websites. FastWeb and College Board are really good search engines. there are a number of search engines out there that want you to pay to get money. No, stay away from these, think about it. We don't want to pay money to try and get money. There's a lot of scams out there. So just, if you have any questions about those, run it by us first. We'd be happy to double check on those for you. What can you do to help your junior? This slide we kind of covered before, but you're going to work to determine what they want to do. Maybe they don't know exactly what they want to do, but if we can determine what kind of field they want to go to, where they want to be, do they want to be around Connecticut, do they want to be home, do they want to be further away, what areas do they want to go into, do they want to go to a 4-year school for sure, 2-year school, do they want to be working with their hands and going into a technical profession, getting a certificate program, anything like that. This is the kind of things that you should have those general discussions with your son or daughter. Also, preparing for the SAT, studying for the SAT, and then taking the SAT, registering for the SAT. And then trying to attend college fairs in the area also. The more your son or daughter sees the schools, the better off they're going to be, the more experience they're going to have with working with admissions people also. And this is the big one. Encourage. Everything is about encouraging, okay? That lovely little nudge that my folks gave me when I was applying got me to apply in August or something like that because I wanted them off my back. So if we can provide that that encouragement, that we want to encourage them to sign up for these junior workshops, come down and get this stuff done now so they don't have to worry about it come fall. Encourage them to request a letter of recommendation. We will be encouraging them. You guys are going to be encouraging them. Eventually, they're going to be so tired of just telling them to do something, they're going to do it. I'm sure of it. Take them on the college tours if you can. Maybe your son or daughter wants to go to school in Florida, and I understand that a weekend trip to Florida to see a school probably isn't going to happen, but take them to see a few schools in Connecticut. Take them to see Trinity, Eastern, UConn, UHart. These are 4 schools that are vastly different from one another. So it'll give them a feel of, do I want a school in a city, or do I want a school out in farmland, or like what exactly do I want? A big school, small school, something like that. I know I'm moving as fast as I can, I promise. Encourage them to get involved. They can still build their resume. If they're not really sure what they want to do, this is an opportunity for them to go out and check out some of their jobs, check out shadow people, go on internships, experience different jobs so that maybe they will have a better idea come the fall. And be in touch with us. Communicate and collaborate with us. We are a team. We will work together and we will be here for you guys through this entire process, no matter what you guys need. You can email us over the summer. We will reply, but it is the summer, so give us, cut us a little slack. But take a breath. This is a daunting process. This is a lot of information. We absolutely understand. But we will help you along. We will break it down for you, and we'll do everything that we can to help you help your student make this a very smooth process. This PowerPoint presentation is available on the Windsor High School website after this. Thank you.
Woo! I know you're tired after hearing all of that. So you can imagine exactly why we sort of toned down our junior planning meetings, because all of this information was shared with your students. But now we've sort of cut that because, as you can tell, you probably all sort of started to look around after a while and think, oh my gosh, this is way too much information. So did your children. And so we made some changes to try to make this a little bit more palpable, a little bit more something that students can actually go home with something tangible, which is the point of the workshops. You guys have this on PowerPoint. You've heard this from us. Do not be afraid to call your school counselor and have that conversation. Do not be afraid after this to call up and say, I still want to set up a meeting with you and my child just to make sure we're all on the same page. Do not be afraid to have the financial aid conversation with your child. I will tell you, in my history of being a school counselor, there have been many a time when there is a crying child in my office who says, my parents never told me that they couldn't afford it. Do not wait. Have that conversation. If you haven't already had that conversation, go home tonight and have it, or maybe you want to wait until Sunday so they can go back to school on Monday and you won't have to see them for the rest of the weekend. But really have those conversations, have those straight up conversations with your children because it's very, very, very important. I know that we are pushing a little bit of time, but Mrs. Christina Santos, she's just going to give you a little bit of her experience, and you can ask her some questions, and we will, I promise you, hold your question for just a minute, and we'll answer some questions.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here today. So I know where you are because I've been there 3 times. I have a senior this year, and she is the 3rd senior in 5 years. So I've done this a couple of times. First, I just want to say it's a much better situation for you today for the class of 2016 than my first one in 2010, and things are definitely streamlined and much easier. So here's a couple of tips. Make a list and check that list twice. What I mean by that is you need to come up with a list of colleges. So the list of colleges that your child comes up with can be geared in a couple of ways. One of my middle child decided she wanted a radius around home. She didn't want to be more than 2 hours away from home. That's how her list kind of got started, and that was good for her, and that was our focus. My youngest, my current senior, her list went from Vermont to Georgia because her college list was very specific to what she intends to do. So if you have a child who knows, like I do, that she wants to go into anthropology and archaeology, that's your search key, right? We checked out every college with that related major and field. Sometimes you also want to go, and I know this was the case for my first, you don't want a college that's big. You don't want to go someplace where the enrollment is 10,000, 12,000. So we were looking for colleges 5,000, 6,000. When you make the list, think about what the list contains. Again, and I would say don't be discouraged by looking at the private sector. I've often thought that. Take a look at the private schools, and I'll share with you that all 3 of mine have gone to private schools because there's a lot of money out there in those private schools that you need to look for, okay? So check that list really well. To visit or not to visit. Clearly, I would say visit the schools, and I would recommend you visit them in advance. One of the things that makes a difference, or has made a difference to my children, is to actually visit that university. They all look great online. They take those beautiful pictures when everything is sunny and green, right? But go out and take these college visits. Sometimes when you get there, you realize the facilities are not what you thought. You realize that the dorm rooms are antiquated and just not up to par, and they can't see themselves there. Or sometimes you will, like my middle child, she walked on campus and knew that's where she wanted to be. So the tour is important, and I recommend you do it now. That's what I did last April vacation, is we went and we visited. Some can be tough if they're out of state and you really have to travel. So maybe those you don't visit, you don't make it a point, but if it's drivable, it's definitely doable. I would recommend, and most colleges now are geared towards you. Right now, every university already knows who they've accepted. They're not focused on my child's class. They're focused on your child's class. They have junior open houses. So get on the websites, check the open houses, and take a look at when you can get there. The sooner the better. And do that this summer. Make it a family trip. If it's a school down by the shore, go for the weekend. Go to the beach. That will be stressful. When you get down to this list, it becomes stressful when they're trying to figure out where to do. And one of the things I want to say, don't ever discredit a school. So when you get there, the facilities are great, and I will tell you, every school I have visited in the last 5 years are building something new buildings, new dorms. They're all investing in higher education. So you're going to see a lot of construction. The construction will eventually end, right? So just know it's going to get better for your children. One of the things we do, and this is important, I know this may be quirky, but eat on campus. Every university that we've gone with all 3 children, we eat in their cafeteria. We want to see what they're actually feeding the children and how it works out for them. For my kids, food was important. So take a chance and just have a meal on campus. They'll let you in, you just pay the fee. Some cases they do actually offer you free tickets to go in if it's during an open house. So here you are. The other thing too is if you take these tours early and you get them off the list, it's going to save you money in the application fee. Now you've removed them from your list and you no longer have to pay that $60 or $70 to apply. When you arrive senior year, I'm just going to tell you next fall could be miserable. I've done it 3 times. It's not necessarily a nice time for your child if they're not personally really, engaged. If they're kind of laid back, it could be stressful. When the fall arrives though, you sit down and you make a plan and you schedule open houses. One of the things that's important is if you have 4 schools and they all have similar open houses, you need to make a choice who to go to. Many times schools will give you a couple of options in October or November. Look at them all, schedule when you go to see that, okay? Because some of them all like to take that last Saturday in September because the weather's great. So see what kind of open house dates you have for the schools. Students, they should be focusing, and I tell all three of mine, focus on the studies at this time. Seniors come in and it's senior year and they're great, but they need to know their mid-quarter grades for January are a very important part of the admissions process. So they need to keep their grades up when they arrive. I know there's a lot of stress with applications and sports and everything that they're doing in all the classes, but they need to keep their academics up because colleges will look at their January grades. Parents, this is when you need to do a little research. You get that list, and it's time for you to really analyze what the schools are about. First of all, whether or not they give money and look into that. Take a look at their website, see what they've given out in financial aid packages before. Find out what kind of endowments they have. Find out to see how family-friendly they are. You could do that on their own websites. You could do that through the college board. And this is when you sit down and you take that list of 4 or 5 schools and you compare them. Compare retention rates. Compare graduation rates. If they have a low graduation rate, ask that question in the open house. Why is your graduation rate only 70%? Ask the questions when you go on campus. Find out why they're not retaining kids so that you're making a good, valid choice when it's time to take an acceptance letter to one of them. Students, they should be engaged with their counselors. I cannot tell you what wonderful experience I've had with the guidance department over the last 5 years. Truly, they are everything your child needs. Rely on them. They're the experts. Make sure they have their materials on time. That's the important thing. I will tell you that the common application makes everything so much easier this year for my senior versus my first one. The common application is really a godsend. All in at once, and all you have to do is do it all at the same time. When it actually comes to applying, this is what I recommend. You find what that earliest decision date is. Maybe you have a school that's a November 1 date for applications or a December 1. Do them all at once. We sat down, we did all 4 or 5 schools at once. It's so much easier, especially if they're all common apps, you just put it in there, 5 credit card times. Just get them all. Don't do it, oh, this one's the 1st, this one's the 15th, this one's December. No, pick a day and do all of them. Once they're all in, you're done. Your part is done. Go by the earliest date for your school's deadlines. Sorry, I wrote notes. I want to make sure. Okay, so now we're in the waiting game. Not the Hunger Games, that waiting game, right? Depending on the deadline. And I've had 3 situations. I had a student that did early decision, so we knew before Christmas. That was wonderful. I've done early action. That's also very nice. And then we just have regular decision, so we're waiting until the end of March. And it's a very long winter when you're doing that. Early decision is great, but I just want to echo, you need to make sure that you can, because it is binding, right? It doesn't matter. If you do early decision, that child needs to go there, so make that decision wisely. Early action, I highly recommend. And if anybody has early action, definitely that would be the way to go. So once that's done, now you have to wait for D-Day, that day you have to make the decision, and you're like, oh, just make the decision. Once the decision is made, once your child has decided where they're going, now the stress is off of you, and that's great. But now it puts a little bit of impetus on them, because now they need to get involved and get engaged specifically with the college of their choice. They need to get on the college website. They need to connect to their Facebook. This is how my daughter, middle child, actually found her roommate, by going to that university, that class. And there are so many ways that they connect with social media today. So get to know the university. And as parents, you also should be linked to the university, and they'll send you parent newsletters even before you arrive on campus. So you get to see what's happening on campus. Really quickly, I'm trying to go as fast as I can. A couple quick tips. So do the FAFSA earlier. If you don't come out to College Goal Sunday, do it before. Clearly, it is my husband's New Year resolution. He does it every January 2nd or 3rd. Do it early, and this is important. Even though you don't have your taxes done, you can upload them and reload them after you do it, but it gives the schools an idea of what your estimated cost as a family is. Do be aware that some schools do in fact do the profile, and there is a cost for that. You should also know that there's an additional cost if your schools require that. NCAA, if your child is going to do Division I, Division II, and you need to start talking to coaches early. I know you have juniors. If you have younger children, if your child is going to play D1, D2, look for camps. If there's specific interest in a school, if they have a camp, get out there, because there are freshmen that actually go out for those camps. And money. Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. That's really on parents. The Hartford Foundation for Public Giving has a tremendous amount of money. They have their own deadlines, and it's not tied to the high school here, but they do have some cases December 1 deadlines, so next fall, start looking. And their scholarships many times are renewable. I'll tell you, one of my eldest actually got a scholarship. It was $3,000 a year, renewable for 4 years. So that was money above and beyond what you could get here in our local community. Last spring, the class of 2014 received over $95,000 in scholarships from our local Windsor community, and we are still fundraising right now for this coming class. So by all means, that application deadline just ended on Tuesday. There are no late fees, so make sure you stay on March. They gotta get that in. The Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. You can go on that, Google that in. Some of them are specific to towns, specific to degrees like medical field, education, but go through all of them. There's a whole ton.
But local scholarships is a different thing, and that's
Yeah.
not through the high school.
That's
So
it.
information. We'll bombard
Yeah.
you with information.
Two quick things. Don't buy too much when you're shopping for college. Wait till you get there because you don't know the room you'll have. Last but not least, at the end of their freshman year, whether it's a 2-year college or a 4-year college, when they come home, you ask them the question as I did, is this the right place for you? If your child has spent 2 semesters of freshman year on a college campus, if they now come home in May and they say no to that question, then reassess exactly where they should be and exactly what they want to do. Because after the freshman year, they basically have taken graduation requirements. If they don't understand that that's the right fit for them, you may be too invested in a school to change, and then you'll lose credits when you actually transfer. So ask the question at the end of the freshman year, is this the right school for you? And take it from there. Thank you very much.
So again, quickly, lots of great information, probably stuff that you're gonna be like, I'm not gonna remember this when I go home today. But we will be bombarding you. We bombard with a lot of information as the year goes on. We remind you about things that are happening. You've probably got a robocall and emails and things like that. Make sure your email is updated in our system and your phone numbers are updated in our system so we can make sure to give you all the information and reminders and things like that. We will have another opportunity, hopefully in the fall, that we'll get together again and do another coffee with the counselors, very specifically for seniors. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity for that as well. Are there any questions? I know we're kind of cutting it, and some of you may need to leave, but yes.
I wanted to make mention of something to those parents that have students with 504 or IEP plans and that currently get testing accommodations. We're taking the SAT, the AP test, and also the ACT. You need to apply for those accommodations separately.
Yes, so-
And the process can be very lengthy. And SAT and AP test is the same application done through the hospital.
Correct. So I don't know if everybody heard her, but it's just basically about if you have a student who has an IEP or a 504 plan, the counselors actually work with the students and their case managers and you to make sure that accommodations are applied for the SAT, ACT, AP exams. It is up to College Board actually to determine whether or not they say yes to your student receiving those accommodations. So that's just something to be aware of as well. It's not something that we just put in and automatically happens. The College Board has to come back and say, yes, this is what they approve for the student. There was something. If your student is going to sign up for the May SAT, it's Monday, April 6th is the deadline. So please go home and have that conversation with your student about whether or not they've registered. The test is actually going to be administered here at the high school, so it's a really good opportunity for students.
We have 2 workshops on Monday morning. I think we have one last workshop on Monday to register. But if the student is going to register with us that day, they must bring their payment information because it's not complete until it's paid for.
Yes, so they need a credit card information. So if your student is going to register on Monday at school or that type of thing, they are going to need that. We will try not to let them go shopping with it afterwards, but they're going to need that credit card information. Yes.
Does the high school have a relationship with any participating organizations or jobs or internship programs or anything that you cannot wear a job?
Okay, so the question was about jobs. We don't really have a relationship. I mean, we definitely work with different town agencies and, make recommendations for students. We get recommendations for jobs or people asking for students to work for them, and we post those kind of jobs in our Career Resource Center. But we don't necessarily have something that is very specific to helping, ultimately for students to definitively find jobs after.
My daughter wants to wait until June to take the SAT. She says that they give me evaluation in the fall. Is that a bad idea?
I mean, there really isn't a bad idea as far as when to take the test. We definitely recommend to take it here in May because it's here, it's local, it's sort of an easy type of thing just coming into the high school. Mr. Burba apparently, and the question was just for the camera, someone's daughter wants to take the SAT in June, is that a bad idea versus taking it in May? Mr. Burba?
Well, just a lot of, I want to say a lot, but many students will take the SAT in June at a different school, and one of the reasons why is because they're being bombarded with AP exams, so they kind of want to break it up a little bit. They're certainly not fun taking it in June. I would definitely not recommend waiting until the beginning of senior year to take it. It's always good to take it right now so you have this information, students have that experience of taking it right now. But June is fine, it just won't be out of our school.
So not a problem taking it in June, it's just a matter of making sure that you take it once before the fall of your senior year and then maybe again in the fall of your senior year.
Are there ACT test dates in the spring of this year?
There are ACT test dates and, yes, I'm sorry, that was. If you go to actstudent.org, that is the place where you'll find the ACT test dates. I believe we have them also on our website, the school counseling website, so you can take a look there as well to find out ACT test dates for this spring.
I think they're in the packet.
The 2015-16 is in the packet, yeah.
Just one thing for your daughter about the SAT. If your child is looking at a highly selective 4-year school, they probably need to take 2 subject tests. And those are not offered every single time, so depending on what your child wants to take, you may want to look at the whole schedule of when the subject tests, so that then you plan the regular SAT first and then the subject test later, because those are not offered every single time.
Great suggestion, and just for the cameras, that you want to just make sure that students who are applying to those more competitive schools that are looking for subject tests, that they actually are able to take the SAT reasoning test first and then the SAT subject test before the end of their junior year. So if you're going to wait to take the regular SAT in June, maybe you should look at May for taking subject tests. You also need to make sure to look at College Board to determine which dates, and I think they may be in the folder, but which dates are subject test dates and which dates don't have subject tests.
Regarding the job posting, is it also posted on the website?
It is only posted in the counseling department because they come and go very quickly. There are things that maybe different people in the town are requesting for students, to babysit or to help, rake lawns or that kind of thing. So they come and go very quickly. We don't post them because of that. And those are for the jobs. Are there any other questions? A very big thank you to Mrs. Christina Santos. She has some wonderful information. This will be posted online, so if you have any other adults in the town that really wanted to hear some of this information, we will be posting the video there as well. Please, again, definitely feel free to talk to your school counselor. The school counselors are in here also, so if you have a little time and you wanted to actually have a conversation with your child's specific school counselor, and we're school counselors, when you hear me say school counselors, it is the same thing as the old term of guidance counselors. We are now called school counselors. So when you're looking that up on the web, it says school counseling, not guidance counseling, so just to be aware of that as well. If there are no more questions, thank you so much for coming. Feel free to grab a snack on your way out if you didn't already. And the counselors are Ms. Sousa's over there, Ms. Leacock, Mr. Burba, Ms. Fernald is coming to this side, Mr. T is right here, and Ms. Wallace is over here if anybody has any questions. Thank you so much.